Minwei Chi Nan. Chapter 33. Lai Tie knows martial arts. Lai Tie was a man of action. The soil in the earth had been plowed loose. Water was needed to be applied to ensure that there's moisture content in the soil. Qin Mian's body was small and he carried water with shoulder pull in one trip. The 2 buckets were only half filled, but his shoulders felt extremely painful under the pressure, which made him bared his teeth. Lai Tie frowned and took away his shoulder pole. Go back. But, Qin Mian rubbed his shoulder and looked at the field in embarrassment. The current him was indeed not made for heavy work, but he was a man, too. He couldn't eat for nothing. He had to do something for the family. Since he was not good at farming, then he must do something he was good at. Then I'll go back first. Can I leave this work to you? Can you manage? He was a little suspicious. Looking at Lai Tie's appearance, it was impossible that he could be farming during the 10 years he had left the village. Lai Tie said as if by the way, I used to live with an old farmer. Qin Mian noticed that there was an illusion of sadness that flashed past in Lai Tie's eyes, his mouth opened wide. Lai Tie was born in a farming family, but his farming skill was taught by an outsider, which was a sad thing. His past 10 years had certainly not been a pleasant experience. Although Qin Mian was curious, now was not the time to ask. It was just that the sadness he just saw made him care. He stepped forward in 2 strides, patted Lai Tie on the shoulder and said positively, "It's all over. Come home when the sun sets." Lai Tie nodded and thrown a look at his shoulder. Qin Mian hurried home. The farm work was left to Lai Tie, but he didn't eat idly without working. He took out a pencil and a stack of white paper he bought in the town last time and leaned forward on the dining table as he recalled the things that might be used to make money. Lai Tie made money by his physical strength, while he made money by his brain. In fact, he had a preliminary plan in mind for making a fortune, but that plan was too big and right now, he was short of manpower and capital, so it was difficult to carry out. He could only do it slowly. He didn't think much, only took consideration of what's in front of him first. He found a straight stick for a ruler, picked up a pencil to write and draw on the paper. It was about an hour before he raised his head and looked at the drawing on the paper with satisfaction. He could earn another sum of money with these things. It was still early in the day. He took out another piece of paper and continued to draw on the table. The design drawing of a table, chair, and cabinet with modern characteristics gradually appeared on the paper. He didn't plan to sell them, but he planned to find someone to make them for his own use after the house was built. As a modern man, he was still more used to modern furniture. Idle with nothing to do, he simply drawn an interior design planning for reference. "Wife, I'm back." Lai Tie looked down at the man who was writing, and the strange thing in his hand that he used to write attracted Lai Tie's attention. Light flashed past in his eyes, but he didn't disturb his wife. He retreated a few steps and called out again before he came near. The papers on the table were still there, but the thing that he used to write was gone. "You're early today." Qin Mian loosened his muscles before he got up and took the hoe in Lai Tie's hand to put it aside. "You go wash up first. The rice is already cooked, I'll go stir-fry the dishes." After Lai Tie led the ox to the pond to drink water, he tied up the ox and dragged a small bundle of straw before he went to the kitchen to scoop water to wash his face. Qin Mian poured oil into the heated clean wok. "I thought of another money-making idea. I want to go to town tomorrow." "Together?" Lai Tie said. "Are you done with the farmland?" Qin Mian asked. "Not yet." Qin Mian hesitated for a moment, knowing that Lai Tie wouldn't let him go to town alone. "Better forget it. Ah, if only I could master martial arts, I wouldn't have to make you to accompany me to town all the time. I'll teach you." Lai Tie suddenly uttered. Surprised by the turn of events, Qin Mian was startled and the water on his hand dripped into the frying wok, which then made Z's sound. With a pat, a drop of oil splashed on the back of his hand that almost made him throw away the spatula. You know martial arts? He looked at Lei Tie in surprise and joy. Lei Tie frowned as he grabbed Qin Mian's hand and rubbed the back of it. His plain tone seemed as though knowing martial arts was a trivial matter. Qin Mian gripped Lai Tai's hand instead and couldn't hide his joy. Excellent! When will we start? Which man hadn't dreamed of being a martial artist? For him, the fact that Lei Tie knew martial arts was as pleasant of a surprise as gold dropping from the sky. Lei Tie motioned to the wok, stir-fry first. We'll talk about it after the house is built. Why? The wok was heated up until it fumed smoke. Qin Mian hurriedly poured in the washed vegetables. Can't you teach me tomorrow? He yanked Lei Tie's hand and signaled him not to leave. Lei Tie sat down on a bench in front of the stove and added wood into the hearth. I don't want outsiders to know about this. Basic martial arts require horse stance training. After the house is built, we can train in the yard. What he said was reasonable. Qin Mian could only say oh, regretfully, but his excitement didn't subside. When he thought that one day he could not only protect himself but also help others, he felt excited. He became more curious about Lei Tie's past. He didn't forget to turn over the dishes in the frying wok. Who taught you martial arts? How long did you train? Can you fight 1 against 10? Lei Tie paused. 1 against 10 is a cinch. We'll talk later. Qin Mian felt a bit lost, but he was not an unreasonable person and soon left this feeling of loss at the back of his mind. He had never seen Lei Tie practice martial arts during this period of time. It must be that Lei Tie deliberately concealed it from him. Since it's been revealed to him today, didn't it mean that the relationship between them was gradually getting closer? Thinking of this, he was in a good mood again. In that case, I'll continue to run and exercise from tomorrow to lay a good foundation. As the master, you should be generous with the teaching in the future. Qin Mian was in such a good mood that he felt that Lei Tie was more pleasing to the eye than before. He smiled at him and raked up a sweet-smelling sweet potato from the ashes under the stove. It was very hot and he quickly threw it to Lei Tie. It was roasting from when I cooked the rice. It should be ready to eat. Lei Tie juggled the sweet potato in 2 hands. After a while passed, he broke it into 2 parts and handed 1 piece to Qin Mian. After dinner, Qin Mian took a bath first. It has gotten cold now, so he dared not wash outside anymore and could only wash himself inside the house. However, the ground was not cemented, or tiled, or compacted soil. It got wet as soon as water sprinkled on it and wouldn't dry up for half a day, which was really inconvenient. Sigh, there seems to be a lot of place to be remodeled. Qin Mian soaked in the tub as he watered himself and looked out through the curtains. From here, he could see the lights in the village. There was only their house in the vicinity. It was too quiet, but he also wondered that although there were only 2 people in the house, with even one of them didn't like talking much, he still didn't feel lonely. On the contrary, the twinkling lights in the hall made him felt warm. Sitting in the tub, he could even hear Lei Tie washing dishes in the kitchen, which made him involuntarily smile again. There was no other entertainment in the evening, so Qin Mian went to bed after washing. Lei Tie was taking a bath in the hall. Qin Mian still had something to say and couldn't help urging, "Come quickly." Lei Tie paused. The foot that stepped on the soaked ground nearly slipped. He grasped the edge of the barrel with quick hands and his sharp sight. He glanced at the open door and shook his head slightly, but his movement sped up. Qin Mian craned his neck to look several times and Lei Tie finally came in with an oil lamp. Under the light, the side profile of his little wife anxiously waiting looked hazy in moonlight, which made people soft at the knees. He blew out the light after he climbed in the bed. Qin Mian came closer to him in the dark. You should keep practicing martial arts. If you don't practice for a long time, you'll get out of shape. If you want, we'll go to the mountain in the morning and you can practice properly there. It will also widen my knowledge of your chivalrous demeanor. How about it? He heard a rustling noise and then an iron-like arm wound around from his back and held him. His body turned stiff. It was not the same thing to be held when he was awake and when he was asleep. All right? He struggled for a moment but his waist was held tighter. Why do you want to practice martial arts? For self-protection, build up a good physique and improve health. He answered without hesitation. The top of his head was gently stroked and the arms on his waist slightly loosened before a deep and steady voice sounded in his ear, "Sleep. We'll get up early tomorrow." Mian had a feeling that LIAN would hold him tighter once he struggled, so he didn't move, but he thought it was necessary to explain, "Actually, we don't." Before he finished speaking, the hold on his waist tightened and even started to hurt a little. Mian compromised and said, "Be gentle. If you want to hold my waist then you can. Just be careful of not getting exterminated once I learned of your techniques." Because there was something in his mind, Mian woke up very early and he looked at the window. It was still dark outside. He sat up and pushed the sleeping man hard. "Get up, quickly get up." LIAN opened his eyes and put his hands under his head as he watched Mian dressed up speedily. His gaze slipped from Mian's sober eyes to the uplifted corner of his mouth. This high-spirited and cheerful look was really a rare sight. "You hurry up." Mian looked back and saw that the man was still lying lazily. He raised his voice and thrown his clothes at him. Only then did LIAN got up and dressed. The clothes on his body were a little untidy, showing a coppery chest. Mian looked away uneasily and ran away to wash. After they had tidied up, with bow set and baskets on their backs, they marched up the mountain in the first rays of the morning sun. The village was so quiet, no one got up earlier than them. When they got to the mountain, they went deeper. "Here is fine." Mian stopped, unable to hold himself back. LIAN didn't say anything and he put down his basket and bow set. When he stood ramrod straight, his demeanor changed in a flash. If he was usually a silent tree, he was like a double-edged sword out of its sheath at this time. His fierce eyes, pursed lips, and tense muscles all give off an aura of a destroyer. Before Mian could recover from the shock, he saw that LIAN had begun to demonstrate a set of fist techniques. He didn't clearly see the change of the moves, but the rapid unpredictable moves and the intensity of tiger roaring wind not only shocked him but his heart pounded and even his blood was boiling. After demonstrating a set of fist techniques, LIAN raised his head and upon coming into contact with a pair of sparkling eyes, there was a thin smile on the bottom of his eyes. End chapter. Minwei Chi Nan. Chapter 34. Daughter-in-law PK Mother-in-law. /Note, PK stands for player killing in online games / So powerful. Mian walked quickly to LIAN and grasped his hand excitedly. "I'll study hard in the future. When you teach me, I'll put my heart and soul into it." LIAN looked at the hand tightly grabbing his own, not batting an eyelid. It was small and still thin. "Depend on your performance." Mian said, "No problem. If I'm right, you really like me, really like my cooking, don't you? You can eat more now than you used to in that old house. I'll make you more delicious food later, all right." LIAN was surprised that his wife seemed to have misunderstood him. When he said, "Depend on your performance," he was referring to the aptitude of his wife to practice martial arts. However, he didn't plan to rectify it and a smile swept past the corner of his lips. The dew is dense on the mountain. Let's go back." Their shoes and trouser legs were wet with dew from the vegetation. They went down the mountain hand in hand. Mian habitually looked at the scenery in the forest, so he was unaware of it. Back at home, Mian immediately started to run around the house. LIAN hesitated for a moment and didn't hurry out to the farmland. He took out his toolbox, sat at the door and seized the time to complete the last procedure of the wooden cart. Every time his little wife gallantly passed in front of him, he looked up. After Mian ran for 5 laps, he was sweating and panting. He was fully aware that going beyond the limit was as bad as falling short. He went to make breakfast after washing his face. The wooden cart was soon finished. LIAN was only going to make an ordinary flat cart to pull goods. At Mian's suggestion, he added compartments. The compartments were made into detachable type. If the cart was loaded with firewood and other things, the compartments could be removed to increase its capacity. If it was for carrying people, the compartments could be installed to give shelter from the wind and rain. It took a total of 2 days for LIAN to plant 2 mu of farmland by himself, half a mu of vegetables and half a mu of wheat. Paddy field and dry farmland were basically used universally, so after a mu of paddy field was meticulously sorted out, it was planted with wheat. After the work in the farmland was finished, LIAN went to Zhangdashuan to inquire about the purchase of building materials and later went to the town to make a purchase. He only had to wait for the other people in the village to be done with the busy farming season before the construction could start. Soon, everyone in the village knew that LIAN was going to build a new house. The Green Mountain village was neither big nor small that even a trivial matter could be spread in a hubbub. There was admiration, jealousy, and also many sour words. People in the Lei family house definitely had heard the news. Mian was always on guard against them coming to find fault. Even if when going to the vegetable garden to pick vegetables, he either let LIAN go or go there on varying times. Even so, he still couldn't avoid it. That day, when Mian was cooking in the kitchen, he heard a sharp female voice in the distance and the corner of his mouth involuntarily rose. Dagur is feeding the ox. Du Shi, Zhao Shi, and Qian Shi came together as a group. Zhao Shi greeted while smiling happily and Qian Shi also had a smile on. Only Du Shi was stone-faced. Her eyebrows were slender, her cheekbones were protruding and her mouth was thin, which when pursed tightly, the corners of the mouth unconsciously flicked down, seeming exceptionally vitriolic. LIAN's action of shaking apart the straw didn't change in the slightest. He looked back and asked dully, "Is there anything?" Qian Shi was a little afraid of this brother-in-law. When she came into contact with his cold eyes that didn't seem to reflect any emotion, she felt timid and seamlessly retreated back to fall behind Du Shi and Zhao Shi. This was a favorable position that if there was a loss, Du Shi and Zhao Shi would suffer, if there was a small advantage, she could partake in it. Nevertheless, her pair of eyes spun around and when she saw the compartment under the eaves, her eyes brightened. "What are you saying? You're our eldest brother, can't we come even if there isn't anything? Mother and we especially came to see you today." Dagur's words are mean. Zhao Shi said in a rebuking manner with a touch of intimacy, as if the relationship between their families were very good. But it was a pity that the one she came across was LIAN, this kind of action was useless against him. LIAN didn't make a sound, as though he didn't hear her. Du Shi used to pick a fight with LIAN many times before. Knowing that he was not easy to deal with, she didn't bother to argue needlessly with him, and without outsiders here, she didn't hide her dislike for LIAN anymore. She said coldly, "Now that you are grown and become independent, you don't take me and your father seriously. How could I dare to offend you again? Since you have the money to buy an ox and afford a house, then give that 100 yuan." Qian Shi's delicate brows creased as she secretly gave her a look of dissatisfaction. The old lady made a mistake today. No matter how one looked at it, Mian was easier to deal with than LIAN. Why did the old lady directly attack LIAN? Thinking of such, she still disinclined to raise her head. Zhao Shi clicked her tongue, "Dagur, this is your fault. Since you have money, take the initiative. You bought ox and stuff, people in the village all have noticed it. Now, who doesn't know you are liberal with money? If they know you haven't given that money yet, who knows how many bad things they will say about you behind your back. Why suffer it? Dagur, do you think this one is right?" LIAN turned and went inside the house. Mian had been peeping through the window crack in the kitchen. Seeing this, he was sure they came to ask him money. He rolled his eyes with a smile and put down the spatula before going out. LIAN caught sight of him and opened his mouth, about to speak. Mian gestured at him and walked to stand in front of him. His intention of not letting LIAN speak was obvious. Mother, Lang's wife, and San Lang's wife, why are you all here? Pardon me, but stir-frying is noisy, so I didn't hear you. Please take a seat. Seeing that Mian had other plans, LIAN kept silent as he wished and watched him served cold water. Du Shi gave Mian a cold look and sat down at the table. Zhao Shi and Du Shi dawdled. When they entered the hall, they stole a few glances into the bedroom through the half-closed door. The furniture in the room was still those same pieces, which made them a little disappointed. Du Shi didn't look at Mian. We have agreed for 100 yuan every month, Wai Lang better not forget about it. Since you have promised, you should be more conscious and don't make others urge you, or people who don't know would think that as a mother, I was extorting from you. LIAN said, my wife manages the money. All of a sudden, 3 pairs of eyes that were full of surprise and shock looked at Mian. Qianxi exclaimed in a fuss, is that true? Degur, eldest sister-in-law is still young and has no parents home to look after him, isn't it inappropriate for him to manage money? Mian's face darkened as soon as he heard it. Who couldn't tell her meaning was that he came from somewhere unknown and that one should be afraid that he would take the money and ran away. Zhao Shi also chimed in with malicious intentions, San Lang's wife is right. Degur, you still need to be careful with your wife, don't end up losing both the person and money. Oh, look at my mouth. I mean, if something goes wrong, isn't it you who is going to be heartbroken? Eldest sister-in-law, don't think that I speak badly, I only speak frankly. Mian didn't get angry but smiled a little and took a sip from the teacup, then unhurriedly said, Lang's wife and San Lang's brother's wife, we have already separated from the family, isn't it inappropriate of you to extend your hand to your brother-in-law's family? If this gets out, it'll hurt your reputation. Acting like this is your household. LIAN was indifferent and silent, as though his right to talk was given to Mian. Zhao Shi and Qianxi were even more shocked and looked at each other. It would be bad for them to talk about it, and if words got out, it wouldn't be pleasant to hear. But if it was Du Shi who spoke, she would be unimpeded. They both looked at Du Shi. Du Shi was not a fool. Before the separation, she didn't get any money from LIAN and now she couldn't count on it anymore. She glared at Zhao Shi and Qianxi, looked at Mian and said impatiently, fine, give the money quickly. I don't want to bother arguing with you. Mother, don't be in a hurry. Mian went to the kitchen to serve them a pile of fragrant fried peanuts. He said enthusiastically, this had just been out of the wok. It's very fragrant. Taste it. LIAN took a look at Mian. He hadn't thought that his little wife wanted to foster cordial relations with the old house, but he still didn't speak out. The peanuts are well fried, fragrant, and not scorched at all. Eldest sister-in-law is very skilled. Zhao Shi praised, smiled at Mian, and immediately reached for a handful of peanuts. Immediately, a plate of peanuts was a quarter less. Qianxi was unwilling to fall behind and immediately reached out. Having something to eat, she no longer wanted to talk and quickly stuffed the peanuts into her mouth. Mian reddened with shame for them. Seeing Du Shi's face was not good, he quickly put the plate in front of Du Shi's and said with a smile, Mother, Lang's wife and San Lang's wife, even if you didn't come today, I was going to visit you. Thinking that he was going to offer money, Du Shi's face eased up a little. Zhao Shi and Qianxi also thought the same. But Mian said, well, to tell you the truth, Tie Gerger did have some money in hands at the beginning of separation. It's also not proper for the husband to have money in hands. Lang's wife and San Lang's wife, don't you agree? For example, the beloved child Lang. I saw him buy tasty vegetable pastry for Dabao 2 days ago. Tasty vegetable pastry. Why didn't she know about it? She gave Zhao Shi a fierce look. Even if she was an old biddy, she often heard the villagers said that the tasty vegetable pastry was good and also expensive, which people generally could not afford. Where did Erlang get the money? It must be his private saving. Zhao Shi trembled as she opened her mouth to explain, but Qin Mian didn't give her a chance at all. As if he didn't notice it, his glib talk was especially quick-witted. As it turned out, Tie Gerger couldn't manage money at all. You see, not long since we started living here, he bought an ox, bought land, and wanted to build another house. I told him these things don't need to be rushed, but he wouldn't listen. The corner of Lei Tie's mouth twitched a little. End chapter. Minwei Qi Nan. Chapter 35. Playing tricks. Even if there was money before, he had spent them all. Don't we still need to live? Now we only have 1 or 2 silver in our hands. We have to pay people's wages to build the house, right? And treat them to a meal, right? That's not enough money. So, I thought if it's possible to trouble Mother, Erlang's wife, and San Lang's wife to borrow some money, we will definitely return it as soon as possible. Qin Mian looked at Du Shi with sincere and earnest eyes, then spontaneously added, we can write a receipt for a loan to ensure that the borrowed money would be returned. What? The expressions in the faces of Du Shi and her company changed simultaneously. Zhao Shi scrambled to open her mouth, her voice was loud, eldest sister-in-law, aren't you making things difficult for me and Erlang's wife? How can we have money when Mother is in charge at home? Du Shi looked sullen and her chest was stuffy with anger. She grasped the edge of the plate with both hands until her fingers turned pale. She wanted to drop the plate on the ground, but she also wanted the glossy oiled peanuts. She had thought that this Qin Mian was easy to handle, but never expected that he was also not easy to deal with. Don't even mention about giving money, he even wanted to borrow money. No way. It's your problem that you don't have enough money. I came here today to ask for money. Du Shi glanced at the peanuts and then looked directly at Qin Mian, with chin held high. No, it's fine. I haven't seen any oil in our house for several days. From today on, I have to ask the eldest's wife to take care of our family's meal. When Zhao Shi and Qian Shi heard that, the side of their lips quietly emerged with a wisp of a smile as they looked gloatingly at Qin Mian while still chewing the peanuts. Qin Mian's eyes flooded with cynicism and face stiff as he pleaded, Mother, it's not that we don't want to give the money, but we're just in a difficult time. We really don't have money. When the deal was made, it was agreed that the money could be given in 2 or 3 months. Du Shi waved her hand with an unsightly face. It's no use saying that. If you want to go back on your words, you must go to the village chief. Zhao Shi clicked her tongue without stop and then added fuel to the fire, eldest sister-in-law, it's just 100 wen. Your ox was bought for at least 5 silver taels. How can you spend 5 taels and be short of a mere 100 wen? I think you better give it, otherwise, I'm afraid that the mother would think you simply do not want to pay. Chewing can't even stop your mouth. Qin Mian glanced at her contemptuously and pretended to be embarrassed as he muttered, Fine, I'll give you that 100 wen. He leaned over to Lei Tie's ear and whispered in a deliberately louder tone, Tie Gerger, after paying the money back, we won't have enough money. Let's go to father after 2 days to see if we can ask to borrow some. Lei Tie looked at Qin Mian with an odd expression in his eyes, but he didn't say a word. Du Shi's face suddenly became alert when she heard it clearly. She made up her mind to talk with Lei Daqiang and tell the whole family to avoid Qin Mian and Lei Tie when she got home. Afterwards, Qin Mian got up and walked into the bedroom. As soon as he turned around, he sniggered and closed the door behind him. After a while, he came out with a handful of copper coins and put them on the table. He blocked them with his arms, squeezed out a smile as he said in low voice, Don't be anxious, mother. I'll count first, so as not to give less. Zhao Shi softly murmured, How pitiful. Qin Mian lowered his head and counted the copper coins one by one. 1, 2, 3. 76. 76, 77, 100. Du Shi was taken aback and stared at him in a belittling manner. He couldn't even count and counted 5 times wrongly, giving 5 wen more, which was enough to buy a big fish. Du Shi's eyes twinkled and she reached out to set aside the copper coins into her bosom. Mother, I'm afraid I'd counted less. I'll count again. Qin Mian hastily stopped her with a smile. Du Shi swatted his hand open and frowned. You are after all my son and daughter-in-law, how can I pursue you for giving me 3 or 4 coins less? So be it, I'm still in a hurry to get back to cooking. Before Qin Mian could respond, she gathered the copper coins together and put them in her bosom. Then she stood up and took the plate. I'll take it home to give your father as snacks while drinking. With that, she walked away as quickly as though someone was chasing after her. Zhao Shi and Qian Shi hurriedly kept up with her pace. Watching them go far, Qin Mian finally couldn't help laughing out loud. Ha ha ha. Lei Tie came to his side and touched his head. Qin Mian turned to look at him, still unable to restrain his smiling expression. Believe it or not, but it will surely keep them away from us for a long time. Not hungry? Asked Lei Tie in a low voice. He bore no sentiment for the people over there. I'm hungry. I'll go fry the dishes. Qin Mian stretched out his arms, shrugged his shoulders, and then went to the kitchen to briskly continue his work. Qin Mian and Lei Tie's life was calm again without the people from the old house coming to bring vexation. Soon, most people in the village were done with the busy farming season. Qin Mian asked Lei Tie to find someone to ask about auspicious day and time and inform the 20 casual laborers who were invited once the time to start building were set. Qin Mian had inquired about it. The average wage for a casual laborer building a house was about 25 wen. Qin Mian planned to pay 20 wen a day, including a lunch of 4 dishes, 2 meat and 2 vegetables. He made Lei Tie be thoroughly clear with these when he asked for help. Generally speaking, these laborers were from the same village who could eat 3 meals a day at home and didn't need the meal inclusion, just a few wages would be fine. But making them a delicious meal at noon would make them work more diligently and efficiently to build the house. Normally, they didn't necessarily have such a good meal at home. The invited people were very happy. When there was no work in the farmland, these farmers would also go to the town or the county to find work. The wages were not necessarily satisfactory. Now, they could earn money while in the village and have a good meal at noon. Who would not like to come? As for those slanderous gossips about Lei Tie and Qin Mian, who cared? Who could live without money? End chapter. Minwei Qi Nan. Chapter 36. Build new house. Qin Mian also had asked Lei Tie to invite Lei Daqiang, Lei Xiangren, Lei Xiangji, and Lei Xiangli when there were many people around. This invitation was just for show, otherwise an unfilial hat would fall and he and Lei Tie would have a bad reputation within the village. Whether Lei Daqiang and his sons would like to come or not was their problem. It was enough for the two families to maintain their sentiments on the surface. Before that day came, Lei Tie went to the mountain with a bow set and a basket on his back. If he could hunt some praise, they didn't need to spend money on meat. Lei Tie grabbed a stick in front of him to beat the grass and frighten away the snake. In his basket, there was a new and slightly smaller basket. Qin Mian followed after empty-handed. His idea was that since Lei Tie was a martial arts expert, they wouldn't be in danger on the mountain, so he took going up the mountain as a tour. 2 days ago, there was an autumn rain. In the wet underbrush, there were patches of mushrooms huddled together like small umbrellas. They stood lively and fully in the underbrush, making whoever saw them happy. The mushrooms were fresh and beautiful. Qin Mian took out the shovel in the basket to dig them out. Although he didn't communicate with Lei Tie, they went up the mountain many times at a time and had a tacit understanding. Lei Tie grabbed the bow set and turned around looking for prey. In a short time, he hunted a hare weighing more than 3 jin. When the farmers were done with the work in the farmland, they were idle. Since the two people were not in a rush, after Mian had dug up the surrounding mushrooms, they went deep into the mountain. It was just that the fog was too dense. Although the two people wore an extra pair of trousers, their trouser legs still got wet and felt a little cold when they stuck onto the flesh. LIAN's trousers were also wet below the knees, but he paid no mind to it. Is there any big animal in the mountain? If you can hunt a big one, the hide can be used to make several knee pads to keep warm and they're waterproof. There is. We'll go further in. LIAN caught a glimpse of a brown snake on Mian's left side, peering out of the grass silently. Without battling an eyelid, the stick in his hand poked and jabbed and then the snake flew far away. What's wrong? Mian looked up inexplicably when he heard the sound of leaves rustling. Nothing. There was a stabbing pain on the back of his hand. Mian looked down and it turned out that he had been scratched by a branch. There was a small tree over a person tall bearing red wheat-sized fruits with thorns grown slightly obliquely upward the branches. Why so careless? LIAN saw a long and thin scratch on the back of his hand and frowned. This is, Mian couldn't believe his eyes. A few days ago, he was still lamenting that there was no Sichuan pepper in this world. Today, he found it on the mountain. In his previous existence, there were 3 types of Sichuan pepper trees in his grandfather's vegetable garden. LIAN said, spicy fruits. Another new name again. Mian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He picked a fruit and put it into his mouth. It was the familiar peppery and spicy taste. LIAN grabbed his hand abruptly. Why put it in your mouth? This was the first time that he spoke to Mian in such a harsh tone that Mian thought it was a bit unusual. It turned out that this man also had a temper. Feeling a bit warm inside, he smiled. This is a Sichuan pepper tree and this fruit is a kind of seasoning. I have a hunch that we have another way to make money. We have to make a mark on this place and dig it up when we return. LIAN stared at him for a long time before taking out a shovel from his basket without a word. Without even looking, he poked hard at a tree trunk nearby and turned around to leave. A bark larger than a face was poked out of the tree trunk, revealing a beige tree core. Mian had an illusion that it was his skin that had been peeled off, his back felt cold and he looked at the man's back suspiciously. This guy is not pissed off, right? He walked quickly to catch up with LIAN and looked at his face expressionless and cold. Is he really angry? Mian was extremely surprised. As he became vaguely aware of something, he went to catch up again, raised his arm to hook around LIAN's shoulder and then raised his lips to smile at him when he looked over. Because of the height difference, the posture was a little awkward, but he didn't let go. I'm not really that careless. I won't rush to eat things I don't know. I didn't eat the Sichuan pepper just now. I just licked it with my tongue. It was only then LIAN's expression eased up. You people called that thing a spicy fruit? Didn't you know that it could be used as a seasoning? It tastes spicy. The old people believe it's poisonous. So, it is like that. Mian rolled his eyes with a smile on his face. At about 2 o'clock, they went down the mountain with a hungry stomach. The harvest for the half-day trip was quite abundant, 1 hare, 3 pheasants, 2 roe deers which they assumed to be siblings weighing more than 40 jin, a basket of mushrooms and chestnuts. Because there were so many things, both of Mian's hands were occupied. The Sichuan pepper tree could not be dug for the time being, but would be transplanted after the new house was built. Thus, Mian picked a lot of Sichuan peppers. They arrived at home with sweat on their faces. Mian was in good health now, so he didn't feel too tired but his arms were a little sore. He sat for a while before he went to cook. LIAN had known earlier that his wife wouldn't be happy if there was no meat. Without being told to, he carried a pheasant away to deal with. Mian watched him walk to the pond with satisfaction and decided to cook pheasant stewed with chestnut for lunch. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. In the blink of an eye, it was the day when the new house construction started. The weather was good, the blazing sun rose in the sky. Qin Mian invited Zhang Ji and another, Aunt Wang, who had a good skill in cooking. Aunt Wang was in her 40s and her skill was among the best in the village. People in the village usually asked her to cook during celebrations. Zhang Ji had a good relationship with Aunt Wang and invited her on behalf of Qin Mian, which the latter readily agreed. Having had breakfast at home earlier, the two people came to Qin Mian's home together and brought along some bowls and chopsticks. Because Qin Mian had not enough dishware, it could only be borrowed from others. Qin Mian had prepared today's ingredients the night before and explained in detail how to make the lunch to Zhang Ji and Aunt Wang. They had heard that Qin Mian had planned to serve 2 meat and 2 vegetable dishes. Upon seeing the pheasants and hare in the kitchen, they were internally excited because they could also taste these dishes at noon. The main food was steamed bun with 2 meat and 2 vegetable dishes, which were stewed hare meat with potato, stewed pheasant with mushroom, stir-fried crown daisy and stir-fried eggplant. Both Zhang Ji and Aunt Wang were quick and diligent workers. They pulled up their sleeves, washed their hands and started to work. After telling them not to forget to make tea, Qin Mian hurried to the house site. The laborers were all honest people. They didn't come late on purpose and also came after breakfast. When Qin Mian arrived, everyone was busy. LIAN was talking to Zhang Dashuan while holding a piece of paper. There were 2 tables and a few chairs not far from the brick pile, which should be borrowed by LIAN. Qin Mian walked over quickly. Upon seeing him, Zhang Dashuan smiled at LIAN and said, "This plan wasn't drawn by your wife, is it?" The houses in the village were basically of the same structure. A 3-room house was divided into 3 parts, a central hall with bedrooms on both sides. But Qin Mian's plan divided the 3-room house into 4 parts, 2 big and 2 small rooms. There was a hallway and a back door between the 2 rooms in the north. This kind of layout was unique in the village, so Zhang Dashuan thought it was a little unusual. LIAN didn't deny it. "Zhang Xiang," Qin Mian greeted Zhang Dashuan, but he didn't get near at once. Instead, he faced the laborers and secretly sized them up. With a smile on his face, he said in a loud voice, "Thank you for coming to help, brothers and uncles. This noon's dishes are stewed hare with potato, stewed pheasant with mushroom, stir-fried crown daisy and stir-fried eggplant, oily guaranteed. Everyone work harder and let's have meal on time at noon." Looking at the skinny and regarded as a useless lad, whose words were spoken straight to the point without the slightest hesitation, and also in a calm and easy-mannered, the group of big men suddenly put away some of their contempt. Some of the lively younger guys even took the lead in cheering. In an instant, the atmosphere was heated. While they were enthusiastically digging the foundation, moving bricks, and mixing starch paste, they were tearing their voices to chat at the same time. The children who were attracted by the noises here came over running one after another, playing around the brick pile. They were not afraid to be scolded when they accidentally got in the way of the adults and laughed merrily as they moved out of the way. It was very lively. Zhang Dashuan cheerfully whispered to LIAN, "Your wife is amazing." LIAN looked at the young man coming by and nodded to Zhang Dashuan. "Zhang Xiang," Qin Mian stood beside LIAN and warmly said, "Taigag and I don't have much experience in this field, and we'd still need to trouble you to work hard today. Please help us take care of it." Zhang Dashuan frankly said, "It is as it should be, don't worry. I'll go ahead and be busy. You don't need to help here. Bring the tea later." LIAN said to Qin Mian. Qin Mian said, "I know. You only need to manage things here, I'll arrange the rest." He didn't see the people in the old house and thought they would not come. When he was leaving, he saw Lei Xiangren, Lei Xiangji, and Lei Xiangli going this way. Lei Daqiang was nowhere to be seen. He didn't care. Since he couldn't help here, he turned to go home. Zhang Ji and Aunt Wang had their own division of labor, one dealt with the dishes and the other kneaded the dough, working in an orderly manner. Unable to intervene, he didn't get into the kitchen. This arrangement allowed Zhang Ji and Aunt Wang to earn his trust, and his heart settled. Qin Mian went to deal with the housework. He collected his clothes and lay tis to wash and then led the ox to drink water and eat grass. Afterwards, he hid in the bedroom and took out the pencil and paper to scribble. It was now early October and the weather was cooler. It was expected that the winter here would be very cold. He felt it was necessary to build a heatable brick bed in the bedroom. He was very clear about how the heatable brick bed was made. Previously, he had lived with a northeastern family for 2 days when he went to the northeast to shoot food programs because he was curious. End chapter. Minwei Qi Nan. Chapter 37. Thick-skinned. There were several more female voices outside the room, making Qin Mian lifted his head from the drawing and put the pencil back into the magical space before he opened the door. Du Shi, Zhao Shi, and Qian Shi stood in front of the kitchen with their heads held high. Lei Dabao and Lei Xiaobao, who were holding Zhao Shi's legs, looked at the uncooked pheasants in the basin while drooling. Lei Xingxin was also there, holding Qian Shi's hand while sucking her finger. Zhang Ji and Aunt Wang stood awkwardly by the water vat as they wiped their hands on the aprons with furious expressions on their faces. Qin Mian understood. Zhang Ji and Aunt Wang must have been bullied. He raised his voice and spoke, "Mother, Lang's wife and San Lang's wife, why are you here?" Zhao Shi coquettishly laughed. "Eldest sister-in-law, don't you want to treat people to a meal at noon? We came to help you cook. But, we didn't expect that you would invite other people." Du Shi's face was grim. "Why Lang's wife, don't you take me and your father seriously? Yeah, inviting outsiders rather than the relatives, eldest sister-in-law, this is going." Qian Shi intentionally spoke halfway. Zhang Ji and Aunt Wang were silent while frowning. Just now, the words of Du Shi and her company were rude, which made them both angry. They both were invited by Qin Mian and Lei Tie, which had nothing to do with Du Shi and her company. The gall of Du Shi and her company to be arrogant and bossy here? Qin Mian gave Zhang Ji and Aunt Wang with an apologetic look. Zhang Ji and Aunt Wang shook their heads to gesture that they were fine. "Mother, Lang's wife and San Lang's wife, you misunderstood. I have to pay for inviting Zhang Ji and Aunt Wang to cook. I do want to ask you to help cook, but it's hard to decide whether I should pay or not. If don't pay, I would feel embarrassed towards you. If I pay, it seemed outlandish and might hurt the relationship between our two families." "Mother, don't you think so? After a careful deliberation, I decided not to invite you, but I didn't expect that Mother, Lang's wife and San Lang's wife would misunderstand. I'm really sorry." Du Shi, Zhao Shi, and Qian Shi were speechless for a while. They had inquired and found out that Zhang Ji and Aunt Wang were being paid to help cook for a day with the same amount as those men. They earned 20 yuan for cooking the meal, which was quite a lot, and it also included free lunch. If Qin Mian asked them to help cook but didn't pay for it, they would be unwilling, but how could this be said directly? Upon seeing that the three people's faces had changed, Zhang Ji and Aunt Wang both laughed secretly and busily turned around. "I was also afraid you'll be bored if you come early, but I intend to call you at mealtime." Qin Mian looked at the sky. "Mother, it's roughly another 2 hours or so before mealtime, why don't you sit down, have some tea and chat for a while? Just leave the work in the kitchen to Zhang Ji and Aunt Wang." Zhang Ji and Aunt Wang smiled at each other and went to the kitchen to keep busy. Du Shi, Zhao Shi, and Qian Shi were annoyed that Qin Mian's didn't give them face, but they couldn't refute his flawless words. Moreover, they were all looking forward to the lunch at noon and didn't want to argue with Qin Mian at this time. The three people looked at each other. Ignoring Qin Mian, they really sat at the table in the hall, drinking tea and chatting. Qin Mian secretly admired their thick skin. As long as they didn't make trouble, it was only a matter of adding a few pairs of chopsticks at noon. "Zhang Ji, Auntie Wang, I'm going to trouble you both with the work in the kitchen. Don't worry." Hearing the implication in his words, Zhang Ji responded in clear voice with a smile, looking at Du Shi and her company indiscernibly. Qin Mian also smiled. He calmly locked the door of the bedroom and went to the construction site to deliver tea. Du Shi, Zhao Shi, and Qian Shi stared at the locked door, their chests felt suffocated. They wanted to say something but Qin Mian had walked away quickly. That back figure looked very carefree and leisurely. On the construction site, everyone was working very hard. Many hands made light of the work. At present, the foundation pit had been almost dug. LIAN was not idle either. With his jacket off and shovel in hands, he shoveled up the soil in the pit. Those strong and tight muscles moved with the movement of his arms, completely showing the power of masculinity. Everyone has worked hard. The tea has been delivered, everyone is welcome to have some. Qin Mian took out water pot and teacups from the bamboo basket and put them on the table. Okay. There were few people who answered and came to drink 2 cups of tea before continuing the work. When Wu De came over, he smiled at Qin Mian. He was also a steadfast worker. After drinking water, he continued to dig up the soil. Qin Mian didn't want to go back to face Du Shi and her company, but he also couldn't help with anything by staying here. He simply moved some bricks to the shade under the tree and sat down against the tree trunk, feeling somewhat bored stiff. LIAN noticed that Qin Mian didn't go home. He put down his shovel and lifted his long legs to walk out of the foundation pit easily. He went to the table and drank a cup of water before walking up to Qin Mian and casually asked, "What's wrong?" "Nothing." Qin Mian glanced at the construction site and said with a forced smile, "I didn't see your father." He thought that LIAN would be a little late at most, but he didn't think that he was still not here. "And?" Qin Mian raised his eyebrow. "And what?" "I'm just a little curious about what he thinks, whether he wants to be to coax and plead with or is afraid that others won't know that he has a bad relationship with us." The 3 Lei brothers had all come. It was totally impossible for LIAN to be busy that he couldn't come. Qin Mian said these words without thinking whether LIAN would be unhappy because he mentioned his father, but perhaps subconsciously, he believed LIAN must be on his side. From time to time, the busy people at the construction site secretly looked over and wondered how the two got along. LIAN didn't say a word. His cold expression obviously shown he didn't care whether LIAN would come. Qin Mian didn't want to hear his answer, so he added, "It's not a formal threat. I think, if he still doesn't come at lunch, then there's no need to invite him." He smiled somewhat cunningly. To be honest, seeing LIAN incurred his dislike. LIAN nodded, "I'll go back to work." "Go." Qin Mian waved him away. It was only until the sun was up, which indicated lunch hour, that Qin Mian went back. Once he saw that the meal was indeed ready, he went back to the construction site to call for the men to eat. The men stopped working with a clear loud laugh and easily moved the tables and chairs as they walked to the back of the village while laughing and talking. End chapter.